try it again. All right, so diving in again, Full Table being a platform basically designed just to highlight people and their passions and create a space for kind of conversation with depth. And so I use this kind of metaphor all the time, or this example of you go to a dinner party and you meet 20 people, you have small talk, it's like, wow, what an awesome gathering. But then you're walking down the street the next day and do they even remember me? You know, like what's their connection? So there's no depth there. And then you go to a lecture and you learn a ton of information, yet there's no conversation. So you come away from things like, wow, I just really wish I could have dove in and asked some questions and kind of had a little more back and forth. So Full Table is kind of like a recognition that everybody has a passion or something that they're working on or stoked about. And so pretty much giving those people a voice. So in this case, JJ will be sharing about their music and kind of like they can get feedback on things. They can just share what they've been working on. And then the conversation just basically opens up and questions can be asked and we can just go wherever they want to for the evening. But that's the basic structure. We've had people share about, they've pitched up business ideas, they've shared stories, we've had people share like herbs and tinctures kind of things, so really a wide breadth of kind of passions and focuses. So this is the first music one, really fired up. And I think we should do little intros and like what the connection is to music. MJ and I not be musical at all. We're in Jackson, Wyoming. And yeah, we're just pumped to have you guys all here. But Levy, what do you got?
All right, let's see. I'm currently located in San Francisco, California. Been playing music. I started playing drums when I was like 6. And then I stopped playing drums maybe in like middle school and got really into sports for a long time, unfortunately. And then picked up guitar like somewhere. I lived in Israel for like 6 months when I was in high school, and I had literally nothing to do. And there was a guitar there. So I started playing, like picking up random songs on guitar, and then kind of like put it down off and on for a long time. And then in college, my random roommate in the dorms had a guitar. So I started playing his again. And then after that, like we started playing a bunch of music together. And then eventually, you can link into Ian. I met Ian in college, like our junior year. We were all in the same classes. We were taking journalism and Spanish classes. And at one point, we decided to get together and play music. And Ian kind of blew me away. He was sitting at the piano playing Michael Jackson, Billie Jean. And he just like absolutely killed it. And I had been kind of like started writing my own songs like a year prior, more or less, just like picking around on guitar and started putting like words that I had already written down to music. And Ian had already had like almost a full album together at this point. I played him some of my songs. I listened to his. And then, yeah, from there it just kind of took off. That's like a really brief introduction.
What college did you guys go to?
Went to the University of Oregon with Will and the whole squad.
The Ducks, or wait, the Portland camp? Is that different? Like a different camp?
No, it's in Eugene. We were the Ducks.
Okay, yeah.
Ducks.
Nice. Brad.
Ian, can you tune us in on that?
Yeah, I'll try to be quick so that the audio doesn't get too fucked. Yeah, so I played music like growing up as a kid. My parents actually enforced taking like a music lesson, and I definitely struggled with that when I had to do it as homework, and I hated practicing and all that stuff, but it definitely paid off because as I got older, certainly came to realize how grateful I was for that. And yeah, I kind of started taking it a little more seriously once I got a little older, kind of like senior year of high school. I started writing a couple songs, and then into college. And then the juncture with Levy was, yeah, pretty much like second half of college, had some classes, and then shared some music. And then I came back to school one year, and I think Levy played specifically the song that is now titled Mistake for Granted, that's published on our Spotify here, and that was like the beginning of what became kind of just like what you would imagine a senior year of college being. Actually, then he graduated a term. He was not even in school. He was kind of like diddling on guitar all the time, and we just kind of kick it and make music. And that's kind of. And now I'm heading home to my hometown to quarantine, but I live and work in Eugene. So yeah, I'll turn the rumble off now.
Hell yeah. And then Lana and Buster, you guys there?
My name's Lana, and I also went to U of O. But I got my first guitar when I was in 5th grade, and it was this electric guitar. I really wanted to be Pat Benatar. But it didn't play out. So then I kind of stopped playing because it was like a lot harder than I thought it would be. So I wasn't like an instant rock star, so I put it down. So then in high school, my freshman year, I signed up for a guitar class and to learn like music theory. And one of the requirements was you had to have a guitar, but an acoustic guitar. So I asked my parents for Christmas, and I told them that I already signed up for this class and that I needed a guitar. So they got me a guitar for Christmas. And I've kind of been playing off and on since then. So since I was like 14, but I've been pretty much a beginner all those years because I never really get too serious about it. It's just a pretty personal hobby. And I write more music than I learn music. So it's never like cool to go to a party because people are like, oh, what do you know? And I don't know anything. But yeah, Buster, you want to tell you?
Yeah, hey, I'm Buster, and I started playing drums when I was in middle school, played through middle school, and then somewhere in high school, my family just couldn't afford drum lessons, and I kind of just fell off, wasn't disciplined enough to keep playing. So I stopped playing, bought a really nice set years later that was too big for my tiny bedroom and never played. And so I sold it for the same price I bought it for 5 years later. And yeah, my younger sister played guitar and ukulele, and kind of inspired me to want to start playing the guitar. So she got me a guitar for Christmas one year, and I didn't play it. And then I met Lana, and she's actually a lot better than she says she is, because she's just really humble, and she writes really good songs, and she sings really well with her guitar, and she can play pretty well. So I learned one song on the guitar to propose to her, and that's still the only song that I know how to play to this day. But it's definitely something that I want to keep doing and progressing. And I love all different types of music, and I especially love live music. I love listening to people play, no matter what they play. They can play a freaking recorder, but listening to music that's recorded is cool. But I love seeing people that actually play instruments and love what they play. So there we go.
That's awesome.
Heck yeah.
And then JJ and AJ.
We are, hold up, we're in Portland, Oregon.
Oh yeah, sorry.
Hey, you go. The floor is yours. I've got a million questions written down, which I'm stoked on, but would love to hear all about the music, where you guys started and everything. But it's all you.
Heck
Do you want
yeah.
me to kick it off?
Sure, Jeff. Yeah.
Sweet.
Where are you, by the way?
I'm in Red Feather Lakes, Colorado. I'm inside of I met a local up here and became friends. My girlfriend and I became friends with him and his wife. And couldn't get any Wi-Fi where I'm camping in my beater RV up here, so they were nice enough to let me just post up in their guest house. But and AJ's in Fort Collins, where we actually live. But we started, let's see, I picked up a guitar in middle school because I wasn't very smart and I wasn't very athletic. And I grew up in Indiana where, like your identity is tied into one or the other of those two things. And so it was a really good outlet for me to feel like, I'm getting the hang of this thing. I'm starting to figure something in life out, that other people don't know how to do. And so it was a good, it was a good ego booster in that sense. But I really fell in love right away with like the process of songwriting. I've never been too terribly good technically. I never took any music theory classes, never went to school for music. But the process of songwriting for me is kind of the bread and butter of like what I love about music. The expression of like the deep things of my soul to like into a song form. It feels like oftentimes I can communicate my heart and my spirit through music better than I can just say it. And that's really what fueled my dream to one day start a band, which I picked up the guitar in 8th grade, had the dream of starting a band, and then it finally came to fruition when I was 21. So I convinced a couple guys to move to Fort Collins with me, and we started jamming. And then it wasn't long after that AJ moved to Fort Collins, and he, as my brother, is kind of grandfathered into the band. And we needed a bass. We needed some low tones. And AJ had no idea how to play the bass, but we threw a bass in his hands and he picked it up. And we've been a band now since 2013, technically, but we really haven't gotten serious about it until the last 3 or 4 years. So that's a general overview.
Heck yeah. Yeah, so Justin, or JJ, is my youngest brother. A little background. We're from Indianapolis, Indiana. I have 2 younger brothers, Josh and Justin. And actually Josh was in the band too for a little bit, but he couldn't make the commitment because it is a pretty big commitment to play music, as you guys know that in a band. So anyways, we actually, all 3 of us, Justin's 5 years younger than me, my other brother's 3 years younger. We all kind of moved to Colorado from Indianapolis, Indiana, like just around the same time, actually. But we moved to different parts of the state. We didn't go together. It was 2009. I was graduating college. Justin came out to start going to school here in Colorado, and Josh was working at a camp. But it's just kind of interesting how we all pieced out of Indiana the same year, but went different parts, and then ended up a few years later, bouncing around the country and the world, coming back and living together and doing life together and doing the band and all that, which is epic to do with your siblings as adults. So super blessed in that way. But I picked up the guitar when I was listening to Justin play guitar all growing up, thinking, man, how cool that was. But I can never do that. Like you will. You guys can do it still. But then I was kind of who was saying it? Levy picked it up in Israel. I was actually in Thailand, living abroad, teaching English when I picked up guitar. I was 23 and got a job teaching English abroad for a year, and was super alone in a foreign country with no other white people, and just in my room a lot. And picked up the guitar and started playing. It was rad. Learned a lot from Marty Schwartz on YouTube. Definitely not classically trained either. But just loved, Justin, kind of, I guess, writing songs was a big thing for me, and just the outlet that provided. And from there, I kind of kept playing the rest of my life. But how I know actually Will and got connected, and why we're even here, is because I got involved in another business called Dr. Squatch, a men's natural soap company that I got to help start and be involved with. And somehow we connected with Giver and did some different campaigns and things, and had a blast with those guys. But anyways, bounced around. I was a sea kayak guide, doing that, and then doing also the guiding gig, but playing guitar and all that. And then, 5 or 6 years ago, I moved out to Fort Collins here, which is northern Colorado. And that's kind of a nutshell of where we're at now. And picked up the bass and loving it. So I think that one of the coolest things that being in A Brother's Fountain has showed me is just the power of music. And, I think that's a big part of what we'd love to just chat with you guys about tonight, and hear maybe different ways that music has influenced you guys, whether you play or not, and what you use it for, and what it means to you. I think one thing that's really interesting about A Brother's Fountain, which I love to have Justin kind of introduce because it was his concept originally, is the only music concept, which is this thing that Will alluded to. But basically, it's this kind of crazy thing that we do in A Brother's Fountain that Justin started, where we go somewhere a certain distance or on a trip with nothing but our instruments, like no money, the backpack with like, our couple giver shirts and gear, and a sleeping bag and a pad. And we see how music can connect us to people. And it's a pretty wild experiment, and it's pretty cool. I didn't even come up with it. My brother did here, but I'm still like proud of it. And I think it's cool because I think it's original, and I don't see really, many other people doing that. But it has like changed my life in profound ways. Those little trips. So we'll go for so we've done just two now. We've done two only musics, and the first one, Justin hitchhiked from his home here in Colorado to Alaska, up towards like Anchorage. So how many miles was that, Justin? 5,000, 10,000? Ridiculous amount.
I can't remember. Yeah, it was a lot.
Yeah, plus 1,000. And he did that one solo, but just brought his little mini guitar and a backpack. And so that was, we're also filmmakers, by the way. We didn't even mention that, dang it. Stoked Ember Productions is our video production company that Justin and I started and work on. So the cool thing about Only Music is we have this other business that allows us to film these trips as we go as best you can. And it's just gonna be tricky when you're alone on the trip like Justin was, but he did it. And we released Only Music Alaska, I can't remember how long ago, maybe a year ago now. And we did our second trip, Only Music South Africa, which we went on a little over a year ago, and haven't released fully yet. We just had a kind of a teaser release, but I got to go on that one actually with Justin. And we had two other buddies, our saxophone player in our band, and then our cousin, who isn't in our band, but a really talented musician, went with us. And the four of us went on that Only Music South Africa trip and traveled 1,000 miles down the coast from Durban, South Africa, down to Cape Town, South Africa, and got to experience that country in just an epic, profound way. And then our third trip, to finish up the Only Music recap, was scheduled to take off about a month ago, so we would have been just getting back from it, but we had to cancel it last second due to COVID-19 going on, and just didn't feel good about taking off because it was sort of hit right as we were about to leave and slated to leave. So we postponed that till September, but that's Only Music the South, and that means the south of America, like USA. Not like South America, but like Louisiana, Alabama, Mississippi, South Carolina. Got to talk like that when you name them, So we're really stoked on that. We'll also tell you maybe a little bit about the 24-hour jam for the van, where we got the beater van that Justin's staying in for that trip by playing music 24 hours straight. But I'd love to back up maybe, and Justin, if you'd be down to just introduce the Only Music, kind of how you came up with the idea and got that first Only Music trip going.
Yeah, what do you think, Will? You want me to talk about the Only Music more?
Oh yeah, I guess, yeah, well, you tell us.
Whatever you guys want. I would love to hear about it. It's definitely a concept that, having seen your guys' videos of the first, the Alaska one, and the teaser, at least for South Africa, it's a pretty incredible undertaking. And I think we could have a whole conversation just within that realm. So yeah, I would love to hear more about that.
Cool. Yeah. I can explain a little bit further, and you guys can ask questions if you're still confused. But so we take a chunk of time, and we choose on a location, a kind of range maybe of from here to here or whatever. And we say, all right, we're going to do this trip, and we're not going to bring any food or money to start the journey, so that we rely on only music, hence the only music project. So really the heart behind it is to put music to the test of like, how powerful is this thing that we can meet people and meet opportunities to survive, to trade music for other services or resources. So basically it's like a street busking tour, you know, and we're like kind of just bums figuring it out. And it's an absolute blast. It's like a pretty full send as far as the first kind of go of it, like, especially for people who haven't done it before or done anything like that before. We took a couple guys who hadn't even done much travel at all in their lives, and we took them to South Africa and traveled 1,000 miles only by the means of music. So it was epic for them and for us too, even having traveled a lot in our lives. So yeah, it's really incredible, and it's it just revolves around people, which is a huge reason why, you know, we had to obviously cancel our more recent only music projects because of COVID, because we have to be with people. Like that is the fuel behind the whole thing, is us gathering people together and meeting with people and hanging out in close quarters and all that. So we're really, I mean, only music. So our band of Brothers Fountain is, I wouldn't say it's huge. I wouldn't say we're tiny. I mean, we've been like chipping away. We have like a good solid community of super fans, as they call them in the industry. I think I would be interested to hear from you guys potentially ideas of how to make it all make a little more sense in the books, if you will. You know, our heart is behind the message and just making music. Like, that's where our passion is first and foremost. But we would love for this band and these types of projects to help us financially, and we would love to work this band as a business towards a sustainable business. So if you have any thoughts on that, but yeah, that's pretty much the only music concept, and we're aiming to make at least one or two more. We've postponed the only music to the South till October. And then I've got some dreams and aspirations to do some type of only music trip on a sailboat through the Caribbean. I think that'd be dope.
That's awesome. Can you give us a little more background on, like you said, you're not a huge band, you're not a tiny band. For someone that doesn't know music and like band sizes that well, I'm a big Dave Matthews fan. There's like 80 people on stage at a time, it feels like. And then you go to like a solo show and someone's just like crushing it all by himself, like what's her name, Tash Sultana. But for you guys, I play size with number wise, is it a consistent 6? Do you have 4 guys who are like the core? What does that look like?
That's a good question. That's a great question. We have 7 in a band right now with a backup drummer. So really technically 8, which is a lot. And part of our deal, part of our like vibe, our brand, just the way things have developed is like we're a bit of a crew, you know, and everybody in the band like kind of carries their own gifts, their own vibe, their own network of people that are like them or are there at the show because they want to see them play. So 7's a lot, and it makes it harder, as I'm sure Levy and Ian know. And it's just like the schedules, the trying to sort out all the details. It's so complicated. It's hard. It's difficult to make everyone happy. You know, you say you want to go on a tour, you got to pay for 7 guys to eat and sleep somewhere and do all this stuff. So it is tricky, but it does allow us, AJ and I would probably be more of the core of the band. And it allows us to like see who, you know, we want to do this or that, like who of the 7 can join. because we really can like still carry our sound and be a band and operate as a Brothers Fountain with 4 or 5 versus 7.
Yeah, Lev, can you talk to that at all? Like with Golden Boy and Ian as well. How many guys are in your group or people are in your group? Right.
We usually play like if we're doing live, can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
If we're doing live, we play with around like 4 to 5 of us. It's usually just a standard setup of guitar, bass, drums, and then keyboards. But a lot of the shows we played in like the last winter and fall were so far sound shows, which I like, and it sounds like for AJ, JJ, and AJ, I don't think, is it JJ? No. That sounds exactly like the kind of show that you guys would kill it at. And it's also, it's not as epic as only music in that you are getting compensated, but it is a lot.
Hey, Lev, you want to chime in? We can't hear Ian very well.
You're muted, Lev.
Crowd and the people there are very purposeful to see the music happen.
This is classic. Hey Ian, we can't not hear you.
I don't know if you guys have ever played a So Far show, but when it...
Ian,
Hello.
All right, Ian, if we can't really hear you, man. You might want to pull over. That sounds like those from the keyboard.
Lana's dying.
We can't really hear you, man. You might want to pull.
Hey Lev,
I heard him mention a So Far show, which we have played a So Far show.
I gave Ian a temporary timeout.
Yeah, that's fair. I'll explain it to him later. I knew it was going to be tricky to pin that guy down. Okay, so more or less, like, Ian is a multi-talented musician. I think, like, for the most part, most of us are, like, picked this up when we were bored or had nothing to do, or we thought the guitar would be interesting and we thought we'd play it. Ian's the type of guy who can, like, who really knows music. Like, he can pick up pretty much any instrument and play it pretty dang well. And he really understands, like, music theory. He's the kind of guy who can, like, listen to a song and go to the piano and play it by ear pretty quickly. And just watching him do that, it's kind of obnoxious because it's always what I wanted to be able to do. But what that allows is Ian can pretty much play a whole show by himself, because he can play every single instrument, and he's really, really talented at it all. So for the most part, because I live in San Francisco, Ian lives in his van used to live in his van in Eugene, is apparently moving to Idaho for quarantine times. So Ian picks up shows however he can. Sometimes he's by himself, just playing all instruments on, like, playing piano or keys or bass or whatever, and just playing gigs at people's houses or restaurants or bars, or he does some So Far sounds in various shows. And then we also have a bunch of music friends from living in Eugene in various bands that we met through college who play with Ian. Like, he'll pick up a bass player, he'll pick up one of our friends who plays keys, or he'll pick up another guy who plays guitar. And some, like, really fun nights you get all 4 of them, and sometimes you just have Ian. And then whenever I'm around in Portland or Eugene or whatever and there's a show going on, I'll play a song or two, at least my song that was recorded on the album, and jump in there. So it kind of is like, if you picture Ian in the center and all of us kind of revolve around him and kind of playing when we can. And we had a tour scheduled Ian was going to drive from Portland to San Diego and back and play shows all the way down and then all the way back up, with people kind of revolving in and out, mostly him. And yeah, that also got postponed. So that's kind of how it works. And Ian, if you're listening, we couldn't hear you. You sounded like terrible. Yeah, so hopefully I didn't undercut anything you were trying to say. If you're even there.
You can hear us. JJ and AJ, but like almost back to JJ's question of how do you make it financially sustainable? That like, so actually right before this, kind of, I went on and I was watching the Dirty Heads old video about when they launched Cabin by the Sea, right? Because I was watching your video of, what's it called? Let's see here. The Birds Don't Worry, and AJ has like a little rap section, right? And like, oh my God, that's Dirty J. Like this is perfect. And they were talking in that video about how they were just like, yeah, we're just going to dive bars and grinding away just to make it work. Is that like, as a musician or a band, is that like a given that you have to do that? Like when it becomes something you're trying to follow and pursue, is that like an essential step of just grind for a number of years?
Oh,
That's a great question. I don't know. I mean, it might be. We don't want to do that, to be honest. And I think maybe we're skipping that vital step.
But then again,
because yeah,
like we kind of arguing it too, though, right? Like during the only music type of concepts, like that's what we're doing. We're knocking on bars' doors and being like, "Can we play here tonight for a hat out to get enough money?"
Yeah, but we're not hustling like in day-to-day life, like on the regular.
Right.
We're not hustling every divey venue, bar, show that pays only $70, and we gotta somehow make that all make sense with 7 guys in the band. And we could hustle our butts off and sell 50 or 100 or 150 tickets in Denver to a show and walk away with $200. We're like, we're kind of just like, man, like if that's the way this goes, like, is there a different way? Is there another way we can do this?
Right.
So, the way that we have evolved, which I do think there is something to that. Where like, I think it depends on your genre. It depends on how you want to approach the music industry. But yeah, like I think there is an element of just grinding that you have to do. Whether it's like grinding in the sense of like you're recording high quality music and you're doing like all of the social media, online promotional grind things to like get that recognized. Because there are solo musicians and musicians who are not touring or playing any shows, but who are making it work, making 30 grand, 60 grand a year. And they've just like become that savvy musician who's kind of like, just making the internet thing work. So I know that that's out there. I haven't cracked that code by any means. But I think we're kind of like, the way that we've evolved is like, we're like, hey, we want any show that we play to feel like it's awesome. And it's like whoever's there is going to get the full ABF, a Brothers Fountain experience. And so that has caused us to, say no to some underpaid gigs or gigs where like people are like, yeah, we can work you into the night for 30 minutes. And we're like, man, I'm not trying to hustle all these tickets, get all our friends and fans out here who like want and expect this like full ABF experience to like show up, and they show up 10 minutes late. They only get 20 minutes of our music. So it's an interesting game to play. But that's kind of where we're at right now.
You had a question. You had mentioned you have a filming business as well, both of you. Do you couple it with your music? I know you had mentioned that you do so when you are traveling, but was the idea behind starting that more so to make it more financially feasible by filming and then being able to sell the films of some of the things that you're doing? What's your thought process behind that? Are you already doing that?
That's a great question. What was your name again?
H, why don't you take that?
I'm another J. I'm MJ.
MJ? Oh, sick.
Yeah.
J's unite. Yeah, that's a great question, MJ. We started Stoked Ember Productions. I put the website in the chat here if you want to check it out. But and our band's website. We started Stoked Ember about 3 years ago, and the idea behind Stoked Ember is that, kind of like Will was saying, you guys, everyone has a passion, right? It's something that they're like that they can bring to the world, basically a gift that they can share. So the idea is that that's an ember, and we want to come along and stoke it by making compelling video to showcase your ember to the world. So like for Giver, for example, would be kind of telling their story and why they're different than all those other clothing brands out there, and what that special sauce is, and why you can change your customers or clients or listeners or fans' lives with your music or product or service. So that's what we do. We get to work with a lot of small businesses and medium-sized businesses and help tell their story through videos, kind of more documentary style for their homepage, often for their website. So yeah, that's a lot of fun. That's a separate business than a Brothers Found, but then again, it's kind of like there's a lot of convergence there, as you alluded to, and we try to leverage as best we can. You guys might have actually some great ideas for us now or by the end of the night on that. So that kind of goes along with what Justin, we're trying to make it work. And really at the end of the day, you have to treat the band like a business, right? If you want to make money and like make it work long-term, and protect your sanity really in a way. So you gotta kind of turn it on and off at certain times. You have to know where to delegate, know where to push forward the throttle, where to kind of take away your focus when needed. And that's what we're trying to do. So yeah, I mean, the fact that we have the video production company has been huge for us. We have music videos, we have these documentary films for the band. We can do all kinds of fun videos, and we do all the time. So we have, like, as far as bands go, one of the most lively video, amount of videos really as anyone, on our YouTube and all that, which we should post our YouTube channel in here. But yeah, just at the end of the day, like, that's awesome. But like a music video doesn't really actually make a band money. It like gives you like clout almost is all it really does, and like excite your fans and like keep people engaged, which is all important. But like, unless on YouTube, I don't know how many it takes to start getting paid, at least 100,000, a million, right? Views, you get paid a little bit. So as far as how to make money on those music videos or how to make money by leveraging those two businesses, we haven't necessarily found the secret sauce.
Yeah.
But one thing that we have done to kind of get away from just, I'm posting this in here right now, it's to kind of get away from the $70 gigs Justin was talking about in Denver, where you're just lugging gear and working your ass off, and it's just not worth it. To counter that and try to go for more of the e-commerce model, which I think is the way to go for businesses these days. We've opened up a Patreon. Have you guys heard of Patreon? You can just nod or no, yes, okay, yeah. Other musicians want to. No, okay, cool. So it's a way for you to support your favorite artists, whether they're painters, musicians, whatever. It's for creatives, for artists, to get support from their fan base, to keep doing what they love and keep putting out awesome content. People sign up usually to support, like monthly with so it's recurring revenue for artists. And if you can grow your super fans on Patreon to like 100 of them, and they're paying you $10 per month, you all of a sudden have like a viable business strategy in every way. So that's what we're trying to do, is grow that following. So we're not relying so much on just gigs. And then also what artists will do for their support of these fans and followers, they'll give them like exclusive content. Maybe like they'll get to choose the name, they'll get to vote for the name for the next album, or they'll get backstage passes, or they'll get the first glimpse at the latest music video. It's all these things that you can kind of offer to your fans to give them the leg up by being kind of in the club. So anyways, that's kind of an interesting way. And we have some videos on there that we've done with Stoked Ember. But another thing that we love is just music and film. So for me personally, as kind of the business development guy in both of these projects, I'm like thinking like, how can we do two birds with one stone? How can we get on tour with Trevor Hall, someone who we admire, a bigger musician who we love, Naco Bear, some of these guys, how can we get on tour with them, be an opener for them, but then also do like a band highlight film, so it's like two birds with one stone. And we're filming their shows and giving them filming music videos on tour with them. And it's like not very many, people can offer both of those things. So that's one way we're trying to, hasn't worked yet, but
Offering, yeah.
Yeah.
So within the band, like again, kind of returning to like your numbers game, that like you got 7 guys with an 8th backup drummer. That do you feel that there's like buy-in by everybody? Because it would seem to me that like there's a really, watching your videos, super good energy throughout the whole group. But would it be easy to be like, okay, if we wanted to make this something that we really followed intentionally, that like these 4 would kind of be the main, or is it just like everybody's so stoked that it would be hard to cut down per se? And like, I'm not saying you should cut down, but that with 7 people, it seems to be a financial challenge within itself. Do you feel like there's a kind of a core within that, or?
Yeah, so
that's a good question.
Yeah,
go ahead.
So like Levi was saying about Ian, Justin is Ian for us. So, yeah, like I guess I might be the next closest one to that, but even I'm a little bit away. Justin, like he's written most of our songs and can play them acoustic on guitar and sing them and can do it solo. But yeah, as far as like the band, they're not getting paid. We don't pay them actually right now. We're trying to hit a goal of revenue before we pay them.
Mm-hmm.
So the only ones getting paid are Justin and I right now, a little bit, not much. And they're on board with it, and they love the band, and they love the brotherhood. They have so much fun. They're goofballs. We have a Colorado Symphony cellist in our band who's just like the most awesome dude ever, and he actually runs the biggest free music festival in Colorado called New West Fest here in Fort Collins. He's the director of the whole thing. Unfortunately, they had to cancel it this year, but yeah, we have a saxophone player who's, we have, we didn't take other instruments because it's kind of cool. We have a cello, saxophone, mandolin, a weird drum set, bass guitar, and then a banjo. Yeah, so it's a lot of fun, kind of the sound we get to try to pump out with that lineup. But yeah, they all have also full-time jobs, right? Because we're not paying them. So the tricky part is like, if we do want to go on tour or even do like a Denver show on a weeknight, they have to work at 7, 8 a.m. the next day, and we're out there till 2, 3 a.m. and we're not getting home till. So it's hard because they can't always all go. So it's kind of like we don't expect too much of them. Like, we understand. I don't know if there's anything you want to add on to that, Justin. I don't know if that even answers your question. The core, though,
So the Brothers Found experience is like at least most of us. I think if, especially in like Colorado, anywhere in the Front Range, Fort Collins, Denver, Boulder, I wouldn't want to like brand like this isn't a Brothers Fountain show and then it's just me or just me and one other person. Like that's just like a letdown, like from how we're known in our community, we would want at least most of us. So like you kind of have this like at least 4 number, that we've kind of come up with. Like that would be a pretty low number for us to be doing a show with just 4 of the 7 guys. But it's pretty wild to see how stoked each dude is on it. It's crazy. Like it's like a volunteer, it's like a music volunteer program that we're running. Essentially, these guys show up, they're not expecting a single dime, and we'll help, we'll feed them, we'll pay for their gas and stuff like that. But they'll just put in so many hours, and we have to put in so many hours to execute what we want to execute. And so they show up, and they do the 3-hour practices once a week. And then, if we've got a show coming up, we're doing more than that in a week. And then you've got the time of load in and sound check and the show. But they all just believe in the community, the message, the heart. the whole vibe of it, the vision, the mission. So it's really cool to see how much time these guys have put in. And now it's been for years they've been in it and doing it. But there is like varying levels of stoke and of availability of putting time in. So I don't know if that answers your question, Will.
I mean, completely. It's as somebody who's not within that, and like my experiences with Giver, like outdoor gear, right? That it's kind of interesting to hear out like how that kind of, not hierarchy necessarily, but like how that structure is set up. That like, does it make sense? Again, I'm like referencing bands that I kind of know of, like Dirty Heads, that two main guys and they bring on people to support them within certain songs, right? But that like they do that, and that way they're able to say, cool, the two of us are the band and we're featuring Modest Yahoo or whoever, which like they're bringing on big names usually, so that helps. But for you guys, that like, it would seem to me, and I'm curious what like Lana and Levy think about this as well, that is it something that like, as literally the brothers Fountain, that you, again, I mean, yeah, it's tough because you're saying right now we've got buy-in from these guys who are stoked over a long period of time, that to say, hey, just the two of us are the heart of the band and we're going to be the ones that are constantly touring, and occasionally we'll have like Joe Schmo jump in on banjo for a couple of songs, but his commitment is just way less. Therefore, like, you're paying him less and you're paying him per song for something like that, right? But you're immediately playing with that structure you've worked hard to establish, which is tricky.
Has there been talk about, because it seems like each of you have you're the musicians, but you also like the filming, you can play multiple instruments. I'm sure a lot of your other group members has there ever been talk of like, yeah, like once this full-time job ends, or can I come on and help you guys do this, like XYZ, whether that be marketing, or that could be a cool thing. I don't know if that's been in conversation at all, but that could be a cool thing in the future too, to be like, great, you're excited about doing the marketing for us come a year, great. And that would make it more feasible for the two of you because it's less work from that.
Yeah, I mean, within Giver right now, like MJ's saying, it's for so long with Giver, we've been saying, hey, everybody does everything. Isn't that so awesome? We're all working our butts off, and like, I do branding and production and marketing and whatever, but they're like, we're at this point where it's just silly because you're spreading everybody too thin. That to say to your group, hey, John, like, you are the lights guy. You've got that so dialed that you show up to a venue and the two of you don't even think about that, right? Like, you're just getting your voice warmed up, JJ, and AJ is getting like the cameras rolling, and like, but you're way more specific in your roles. Do you, I mean, you might already have that established, I don't know, but that would seem to be a challenge I've faced, and to address it has been like monumental for us.
Yeah, I totally agree that that's huge, and that's been a part of the evolution of our band and business for sure. And I think we haven't quite nailed it yet. I mean, to be honest, as far as like how to properly delegate and all that. But yeah, we've tried a few things that have failed. At one point, we were like, all right, we wrote on a whiteboard. We're like, here are all the things that we need to do to make this thing go, to make the machine run, and to head towards success. And like, it's a pretty long list, you know, when you go through it all and include the accounting and the taxes and the social media, PR stuff. And everyone's like, we like dished it all out, and we're like, all right, this is what this is worth, and you're going to do this, and you're going to do this. And then when we reach this goal, this income, this revenue goal, we'll kind of splice it out accordingly. And like, it didn't work at all. It didn't work at all. So then we kind of redid the whole thing. And basically now AJ and I are the ones who've split all the things. And Yeah, and
Delegate.
now we're the only ones getting paid because we're the ones doing the work
Yeah.
behind the machine.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that's true. We called it Delegation Station, and we got real excited. We got overly excited about it all. We thought it was going to be great. With our whole point system, how people are going to get compensated once we hit it and everything, and a lot got dropped. But did maybe 10 or 20% still not get dropped, and some certain duties did end up getting delegated, and people are still doing those? Yeah. Like, it wasn't like a great success, but like it's better than maybe not doing that at all, actually, in a way. And we do in certain ways, Justin. I mean, like me and Justin mostly does all the work, but we do have certain like roles. Like our drummer is an artist, an actual like painter, and he does all of our designs. So like any design for any of our merchandise or on our website or anything, he draws it. Our cellist, he likes to help out with the merch, so like he'll help out with that, and he runs this huge festival in town, so he has lots of ideas for us always. And I think other than that, that's about it. But there's certain little things like that,
Levy, can you talk to like the Golden Boy experience when it comes to like, have you gotten paid? Is that something that you've been working on? Like, is Ian, like, since he is the heart and soul of Golden Boys, kind of like, does the whole band feel as if like supporting him is like the move, right? That like as long as Ian's crushing it, that we're moving forward? It's like, talk to us about that.
Yeah, totally. In real money, definitely never gotten paid, but been paid in like experience and like happiness and all the other good things that are worth a lot. And definitely never went into, I mean, in reality, I had like a song that Ian really liked to listen to and some friends were stoked on. And Ian was like, oh, that's a sick song. Let me throw it on this album that I want to record in Nashville. And so when Ian had like saved up some money and like gotten contributions to go record this album, he wanted to throw it on there. And then it ended up, Ian already had he'd been getting paid through views on Spotify and like Apple Music. Like every listen, you maybe get like a 1/10 of a penny or something like that. And then like, he had 250,000 views on one of his songs on the first EP that came out. And I think that equated to like a couple $100. So he made some money there. And so I never expected to make any money at all. I was just stoked that he was like, oh, I like your song. I want to put it on my album. And I think it has like 75,000 views, and maybe I've made like $50 or something. But yeah, never really in it for the money. And I think in Ian's sitch, he doesn't have a lot of bills having lived in his van. So he's probably doing it sustainably as far as I can tell. We sell t-shirts. We have like merch t-shirts. I think he makes money off views on the album, and then gigs, which probably, I don't know if he makes a bunch of money, but I think he's on the same boat where he's kind of moving towards doing gigs that aren't so like they can slide you in for 20 minutes or stuff like that. Like in kind of the music industry, it seems like there was this point in time where bands were so excited to play a gig that they would just do it for free. And what that did was it made it so other bands like, oh, there's a band that's really sick and they paid $50 for this band they can pay for free. We'll just do the free one. And so it kind of put all these bands in the situation where like everyone's going to do it for free, then we have to do it for free. And so I think Ian's like, once you get above this certain level where you can like start booking gigs consistently and you build like repertoire with like consistent venues, you can kind of push past this barrier of like free gigs and like we'll slide you in and start getting consistent like weekly, monthly gigs lined up. And so I think in Ian's case right now, he made it past that situation and is now probably making more money and on like a upward trajectory. But I think what A Brother's Found is saying is really real, like dealing with getting people together and like paying other people and like even loading up and unloading and being there on time is such a process that people don't really factor into the whole scheme of things. And the whole concept of like, oh, like let's start a band with some buddies and like do it is really fun in the beginning. And then once you start like looking into logistics, it's like, oh shit, I'm putting in more money to go play this gig than I am to actually come out of it. And which lasts for a certain amount of time until like once the passion fades out, then you're kind of lost. And I wish Ian could attest to this if he wasn't in a loud ass band. But
How's it sound? Does it sound quieter right now?
yeah,
Yeah. No, in terms of sheer financial like currency, Levy's definitely pulling his weight. Like his song's doing really well, and also just when we play that song live, it's the song is infamous because it ends on like a super abrupt ending. And every time I've played that at like an acoustic show, the crowd just lingers for like a couple seconds, just expecting it to go on. And I was the same way when I first heard the song, because I was like, dude, you got to rip another chorus. But he didn't, he made his choice. But I think to comment on what the brothers were saying about, first of all, hauling a lot of instrumentalists around. Levy and I are both the benefactors of having super talented musicians like accompany us. However, they are also very busy musicians. At least a lot of them that I play with within Eugene play in several other bands, and those are also high performing bands. And so getting them to places is usually what the payout goes towards, because Eugene and we play in Portland sometimes too, but our payouts are not exactly the most viable. And I do work a job, so that's my main income. The music at this point is still a pet project, but it is trying to get ramped up at this point. And the quarantine definitely cut us off. We had a good string of shows going through California planned, but yeah, we're looking towards hopefully building enough of an audience to where we could be viable to what the brothers were saying about like a tour will exchange music for shelter and all that kind of stuff. That's brilliant, and it's awesome to hear that somebody has put that into like an idea form and done it well and seen that it works, because that's definitely, at least as far as I understand it, that's kind of what underpins it, and to be what you do. Fashion, I guess. I mean, I'm not one for professionalism per se. That kind of idea, like I dream of accomplishing that. And my personal takeaways is I kind of went a long time trying to make a band, and then realized that it's not really that convenient to have. I would always prefer to have a band play my music because that's the best. But I think ultimately the decision became to become smaller, and you're just a little more mobile. Yeah, that's worked for us until quarantine kind of struck it all down. But hopefully we can get back to a similar working rate.
Can you touch on what like a monthly listener for Spotify? Like what does that mean? So, for example, I saw Golden Boy's got like 247,000 monthly listeners, which to me is like, shit, that's incredible. Like, good for them. But is that something where you're like, oh man, that means nothing, or like means nothing, or like, how does that all work?
Well, it's not quite that big. We're at like 20,000 monthly listeners. We have a song with like 200,000 streams, but it definitely doesn't pay well in that regard. But it's what we've noticed, at least what I've noticed. And the first couple shows we played up in Seattle, because we had never played in Seattle, they turned out real audience members from those shows. These were 2 So Far shows, where like at the show, a person would buy a t-shirt, get some merch, be like, when was the album out? This was before the album had been released. So the So Far shows were actually really good for getting actual fans to not only like participate in your music, participate as an audience member, but to be there witnessing it, but to also after the fact seek it out and then connect with it. I actually ran into a person who actually the inverse happened, where we came up on their Spotify like on a daily algorithm kind of thing, and then they had bought a ticket to the So Far show, and they put it together that, oh, like you are the person who just came up on our So Far or on our Spotify. So that was kind of like I'm assuming that the whole reason a person ends up on a playlist is because they have like friends listening to the music. And certainly in Seattle, playing those kind of shows were great for building an audience. And you can play those with however many people you want, and it sounds exactly like the kind of thing that I would dream of seeing a band with a cellist, a saxophonist, and all of the instruments that Brothers Fountain plays with.
And I never heard if y'all had played any of those shows, but that would definitely be something I would encourage when they can come back. That's the good point. I don't know.
When the first like views were getting hit on my song and like the songs that we had going, it was cool. It was like, oh, I got 1,000 views. Like my grandma listened to it like 50 times, my dad like 50 times, my sister, like I got a bunch of friends that are playing the song. I'm stoked. And then when it started getting more and more, and I think Ian actually sent me like a map of the globe of where people were listening to the song, and it was pretty mind-blowing to be like, oh, like somebody outside of the United States is listening to this song, or like a few people in all these different areas. And then that kind of brings into fruition the Brothers Fountain idea of like you can actually travel and meet people who have listened to your music and know of you, and kind of just like spreading this community and the sense of recognition worldwide. And that like totally is the dream, like just to live through music everywhere. And I thought that was a cool aspect of Spotify. It can like show you all these different places where your song's getting played. So cool sense of connection through that.
For the brothers, like I'm hearing from Levy and Ian that the dream being to travel for sure, but that like having those places you're returning to repeatedly, that like, oh yeah, ABF rolls through every September and plays like an awesome show, and that people come to expect it. Do you guys have a routine or a schedule like that you feel as if people can kind of like rely on per se?
A little bit.
Not in the more like classic sense of touring. We don't really tour much, but we will. We'll do mini tours here and there. We did a mini tour to Indiana where we grew up and played some shows along the way over a long weekend. And then more recently we went out to Montana. So that's definitely within the realm of possibility. In this last Montana gig, they kind of the big show of that mini tour offered for us to come back. And so we'll likely go back to Montana up there to Red Lodge. But we've kind of like, you know, in a sense, we do that in some ways where we kind of get into a rhythm of going to play in Denver and once every few months, and then Fort Collins once every like 2 months. It's all kind of gone haywire with COVID, but yeah. And then we host a small festival actually up here in Red Feather where I am right now. Yeah. It's a bunch of like open band up here. Yeah. So we had a dream.
You guys should all come, by the way.
Yeah, you guys are all invited. Come up here September 28th. Cool. Yeah. So we had a dream where we were like, man, what would it be like to play a show up in the mountains and like bring a generator up there and like get a show going. And I don't like to dream beyond what I believe I could actually achieve. And so I kind of grabbed hold of that dream that was spoken of like in 2013 when we first started. And like, you know, we had some conversations and we as a band decided like, all right, you know, this was a few years ago now. We're like, this is the year we're going to do this thing. And so what we did was not only did we play a show in the mountains, but we did a whole weekend of music, and we invited a bunch of our other musician friends here in Colorado. And so we did like 4 hours of music on Friday night and then 5 hours of music on Saturday night next to this lake. And it's just kind of dispersed camping, and people just come in, and it's a bit of a scavenger hunt to like find where we are, but you know, and you kind of living rough out there, you know, there's not a bunch of like amenities or anything. We'll haul a couple of porta potties up, but that's it. And then people just kind of choose your own adventure. People will paddleboard, rock climb, mountain bike during the day, and then at night we all come together and hang out. And that's called Jammaland. And Jammaland is really kind of a mantelpiece for a Brothers Fountain because it combines two things that we have so much love and passion for. One being nature and the great outdoors, and music and people. So three things that we love. And it's like magical. Everyone who goes loves it. We do like a $20 donation, $20 suggested donation. And most will give that, and then a handful of people will, you know, donate extra or whatever. So we come out maybe just above breaking even. The first year we lost money. The second and third, we came out just above breaking even. And we were able to pay the musicians that we had invited some money, at least to pay for their gas to get up here and maybe some food. But that's something that we love, and we've thought about growing that and have talked about and looked into doing Jammaland on a bigger scale as something that might bring in some revenue and make this whole band thing a little more sustainable. But we haven't quite cracked that one either.
You all, by the way, are invited to come and attend Jammaland, but we haven't booked the musicians yet either. So you guys are actually, I would say, all formally invited to play and be one of those musicians this year, if you want to. So hit me up on that, because I'll probably try to start right out. We usually have about 10 to 12 bands, some of them solo artists, some of them bands, playing in the woods in this makeshift stage by the lake in the mountains. It's epic. We kind of also wanted the whole thing to be like a band retreat and a way for bands to connect. So we specifically asked bands, like, if you're coming, we just ask that you hang out and camp for at least a night, preferably the whole weekend with us, and listen to the other artists and like kick it with your crew. So that's really fun too, because bands like coming to camp, and some of them aren't used to camping, and we have all different styles of people and bands up there, and it's a hoot. It's freaking awesome. So seriously think about coming out, y'all.
Hey, Lamb Banan, you hear that? You're going to be on tour soon.
Yeah. It does. And for your chat thing, I don't have any projects musically, so I don't have anything to send you to. But anyways, for what you guys are saying, it reminds me, because I'm not like involved musically in anything like this, but I am in a nonprofit, and I'm like the vice president of a nonprofit. And so we have a lot of these same challenges, which is like, how do we don't get paid, but like, how do we fund our project? And so as far as like administratively, I think it is really important to like prioritize that kind of stuff. And the way that we do it is like, we meet weekly, which you guys like band practice weekly, but like, even if we can't make it in person, like right now with COVID, we're not meeting in person, but we have a Zoom call like once a week, and it's only an hour and 45 minutes. And like, you choose a time that works for most people. And then we have like we have, what's it called? Like a Google Doc that we continually work through. And then at the end of each meeting, we're like, okay, what are we going to come back to next week? And what have we tackled? And we delegate things every meeting. And it's kind of just like, people come because, Buster, can you get that? Our cat is eating things. And people come because they're passionate about it. And like,
Marley.
But I don't know, because we actually do things like your guys' Jammaland thing sounds really cool. And I was going to suggest something like that, because Buster's sister goes to this thing every year. It's called 8 Mile out in Eugene.
10 Mile.
Sorry, 10 Mile. I don't know if you've heard of it, Levy, but
it's near Yachats, Oregon.
Yeah, towards the coast. And basically, this guy just lets these bands come and use his property, and it's kind of invite only for the bands, but then, and also for people attending. So like, you have to know somebody in a band. I think it started as just like a bunch of bands coming together. And so in order to attend, you had to know somebody in a band, or be playing in a band, or be recommended to like come. And it's free, but it's also donation based. But it's been going now for, I don't know, it's grown, and it's like got a lot of followers. Like, they have 10 Mile t-shirts and 10 Mile sweatshirts and stuff like that. And people really look forward to it every year. And I don't know, like I said, if it pays anything, but, which also reminds me of, like, we put on a yearly event as our nonprofit, which is like the event that pays for the year, because that's basically the only way you can make money. Also, like, we've been looking into grants. I don't know like what that looks like for people in music, but I wonder if like you could capitalize on your videography and stuff. And like, if you can convince people that you're doing it for certain reasons, like people want to give money, but also that requires work, applying for grants and stuff. But I don't know, I would say consistency of like meeting to prioritize the administrative stuff can go a long way, even if people aren't getting paid. So, but I think it would be important to separate like the music practicing and then the administrative talk. And then having it like really organized weekly as far as like, all right, like Buster, did you do that thing that we asked you to do last week? You know, and just keeping people accountable. But it also gives people a purpose. And I guess like because you have so many instruments in the band that are important to the band, that might be another thing to kind of leverage, which I know is hard, but like everyone in our nonprofit also has multiple jobs and things like that. And somehow people keep coming back and we keep getting stuff done. So
Nice.
that would be my 2 cents.
I did have a thought as well. Thank you for that, Lana. I really love what you guys have going with Jammaland, because when you're talking about how do we get artists like Trevor Hall or Knuckle Bear or, you know, any of those people to get in on things, those guys still love playing music. You know, I mean, they're making it big now, but they still love playing music and they love those events. And I know they're on tour a lot and stuff like that, but those are the type of people and the people that they listen to that still aren't even heard yet, that you can reach out to their band members and say, hey, we do this thing, you know, if you guys would be interested in growing it. People love these events. I mean, they show up because that's the heart of the music. And so if you guys keep growing that, and also with your buddy who is in your band, the celloist, with his event as well, reaching out to people and growing those things, you know, I can only feel that you're going to get some people show up who either A, are in with the people that you want to be in with, or B, you're just going to get those people to come show up and play randomly, you know, if you keep investing in that realm. Yeah, I think it's awesome.
Which might be the answer to going around having to play like cheap shows at bars, you know, like maybe investing in Jammaland type thing and putting your priorities and eggs in that basket might be, you know, the way out of going the other route.
Although you may need to find a venue that still allows for the things you want, but is a little bit more accessible to grow it to the size that you want, unless you want to keep it at a certain size. That's, yeah.
I mean, you guys, the 10-mile thing you mentioned, the exclusivity of it seems to be a huge selling point. And like, maybe not every guest needs to be invited, but that like Trevor Hall per se, he wants to go to a place where like, oh, like, hey, I'm one of a select group kind of vibe. I mean, with The Giver, again, our Kickstarters, people support our Kickstarter campaigns because you're one of the first, right? You're one of the first people to get our mittens. Like, wow, so cool. Like, you're on the cutting edge of The Giver vibe. And so like with Jammaland or 10 Mile, that like, hey, we're only selling 200 tickets this year. And then the next year, we're only selling 400. And like, you kind of bump it up to kind of make sense for the venue. But that way, like, hey, dude, we wish you could come this year. We sold out, but like next year, get your tickets early, right? And that way, there's like a reason for people to get early, to spend the money to join. They want to be part of the Jammaland experience. And like, it's a hard kind of bargain there because you're immediately saying not everybody can be a part of this. But you have to kind of be okay with that.
Yeah, you create a demand. Backtracking a little bit too, I manage a yoga studio in Jackson, and with COVID, we've had to obviously reframe how we teach classes. So we've been doing things digitally, and since this is a hard time for a lot of people, we had memberships, and there were different tiers of pricing. So you guys were saying that you were doing donation based, which is amazing. But I've learned throughout the last couple of years, when it's donation based and there's a suggested donation, most people will pay the suggested. But if you have tiers, like donation based is the lowest and you have a suggested, tier up is regular price, and that could be $10, $20 more. And then you can have a support us as like $10 or $20 more. And sometimes people just need that like specificity to be like, oh, I have that money. I can easily help support the band that I love. So that's just an option with pricing that we've seen. Most people do the donation based, but this is also COVID, so it's different times. But then you have people who really do help you. So it can make it more feasible for you too.
It would seem that you could really easily, with those tiers, like at the top tier, boom, $20 extra, and they get a giver neck koozie that says Jammaland 2020 on it, and like a certain kind of merchandise where like they don't need to go to the merchandise tent to buy stuff, but like you're incentivizing again early to spend more. Would be an interesting kind of avenue to explore for you guys. I mean, everybody's stoked on Jammaland for you know.
I have on giver neck koozies, if I must say so. Now, Jammaland custom giver neck.
We'll make that happen.
Yeah.
I have an interesting tidbit is that I was actually supposed to go to a festival today called Bodega Day. And it's out in the beach in Bodega, and it's run by, you guys can like nod your head or whatever if you know John Craigie or like the Rainbow Girls.
Yeah, I love John Craigie, dude.
Yeah, so he's through this camp that I used to work at where I take kids on backpacking trips. He was like he'd come and play shows there called Camp Tawonga, and through that scene, it's a similar festival where it's like John Craigie, the Rainbow Girls, and a few other bit like Josiah from The Head and the Heart, and a few other people, and they have this festival out in Bodega at the Rainbow Girls property, and it's like similar, like you have to know somebody in the band or be recommended or be playing. And they just have a set price of $50, and you bring your own food and booze or whatever you need for the weekend, and you go out and camp on this massive property by the beach. And not only do they have shows, but they also, John Craigie hosts like a songwriting session where he like gives tidbits about songwriting and does like kind of like a music feedback thing. And then they also have like a talent show where they spread it out from just music. They do other kind of talents. And then they also have like, I think a day or a night of just playing like acts of music. So I thought that I was supposed to be there like right now doing this, and I was super stoked to go. It was my first year, but they've been doing it for multiple years, and this year it sold out, and the year before it sold out. And like I had to get my ticket like way in advance, and it's been growing. So another interesting thing to think about.
Heck yeah!
That sounds so rad. I love John Craigie. I would love to see his songwriting session.
That kind of reminds me of our like yearly event that we do, which is like you try to get a draw. So somebody that would draw people there that isn't necessarily you, you know, so like somebody bigger than you guys or something. So for your guys' event, like get a draw. We try to make it engaging and so you're involved. So like a songwriting session would be something like that. We do workshops and stuff. So like, so it's not just them coming and absorbing. It's like, okay, what are they getting from this too? So that could be a fun thing. I don't know like what that would look like, but even like a t-shirt, like Buster's sister did like screen printing t-shirts, you know, like something random, but just kind of trying to think of like what would be a draw for people and something that they could like physically take away, whether it's a neck koozie or something. But I think, yeah, investing in that event specifically could be really like fruitful for you guys.
And you guys already have a solid name. The name is awesome.
You like it? Dude, we had like a 3-hour band practice where all we did was do the name, and we came up with like 300 absurd names in a spreadsheet, and we passed this computer around for hours, and we took turns deleting one by one. Everyone would delete one name, and then it was a huge deal. And we landed on Jammaland. Love it.
Solid, paid off.
Mm-hmm.
Lana, I mean, like you're saying, I think that I really agree that walking away with something is like a draw, but that for these guys, like they already do the videography, that why not create like a Burning Man experience, right? That you go and there's like, you make this cool art piece together, you light shit on fire, and people come away like with this epic video, like, dude, I was at Jammaland 2020, check out the video, like there I am in clip 1 minute and 15 seconds, right? That like, there I am doing some hand dancing because I'm like on acid, and like, but to create that whole energy, which I think like when you watch the ABF music videos, like, yeah, people are dancing and like feeling it. To have that really transfer into Jammaland, where like, yeah, you build an art installation, you do writing workshops, you figure out what can be something like you guys can film, and then boom, like, hey, we did this writing workshop for the people who were there, cost them $5 to be part of, and then you have it filmed, you buy a subscription or you buy like a little pass to online, like hear what we talked about at Jammaland 2020, and learn how to write your first song, whatever. And it's just like
really cool.
Right, so like people pay $50 online, and it's like a week-long course where you take that video and you just chop it up, and suddenly like you've got content that is longer than just the experience.
Yeah, that's really good, Will, and you guys are also wise, by the way, and really good input. Thank you. So there is some of this actually even already going on and embedded into the heart and DNA of Jammaland. So we have everything from rock, we call it Share Rock, where everyone brings something to share, and there's usually food on it throughout the entire weekend where people are sharing food. But a big part of it of Jammaland as well is that everyone would bring a piece, a gifting that they have, and share it with everyone. So the musicians are obviously doing that with the music, but we've had yoga instructors do yoga in the morning, Saturday morning, when everyone's waking up after the night before. We've had, we have pancake stations. What was it, bong and a blitz? Like someone had waffles and a bong. Someone had massages going on. People bring kayaks, and they share their kayaks with people in the lakes. There's really good rock climbing around there, and certain people are better at rock climbing than others, and everyone goes. It's just kind of we try to build a inclusive community there where you can go mountain biking, hiking, do all these things. But yeah, we have had trouble kind of, I guess, getting sort of the traction that we'd like, and you guys have given us some great ideas to try to double down on that. Like, we have kept Google Docs with like things we'd like to do better every year from Jammaland, so we have a bit of a foundation. But I like what Lana said about like doing it like every week and getting into a doc, or maybe not even every week, but once a month, once a quarter, more than we do really, and getting people more on tasks and delegating really good and properly well ahead of time for all that. And we've thought about things like maybe we have like how do we get these to get more traction? People get stepping up, and because we have like a few people each year that do it, but like not everyone. So we're open to ideas. We thought maybe we could have a social chair or something like that, and everyone in the band has certain duties to make all of Jammaland happen. But yeah, I don't know.
I mean, I'm stoked on the idea of like, the sharing rock is awesome. That like for you guys to, again, a lot of my references are not music based, I apologize, but with Giver, that our Kickstarters are our engine, that like we do a Kickstarter once a year, like once every other year kind of thing, and you should raise a ton of money, get a ton of stoke going. And it would seem that for you guys to like say, all right, Jammaland 2021, you set a date and you just like hype the shit out of it, working towards it. Like everybody you meet is told that Jammaland 2021 is on this date in this place, right? And then like you slowly, that more and more people get it, and they're on your newsletter, and they're being reminded of it on a regular basis. And then boom, the moment you guys launch tickets, it's not like who's gonna hear about it now? It's like 1,000 people are already fired up and like dying to get tickets. And then you just use that stoke, and afterwards for us with Kickstarter, we're hitting up our backers and we're like, thank you so much for being a part of this community, for bringing these to life. That is so awesome. And people feel empowered to be like, hey, the Jammaland 2021 album is now out. Like we recorded all the little concerts, right? Like why not? There's content waiting to be put together. It's featuring Golden Boy as with this song, and you got ABF has these 5 songs on there, and like that's a whole Spotify playlist or whatever that you can direct people to, just to keep that audience engaged. And suddenly, before you know it, people are like, dude, when's Jammaland 2022 happening, right? So I think that, like Lana said, those meetings, that a lot of it is easy to be like head down in the weeds. All right, boys, like what's our next song? But that to say, once a week, we're going to talk Jammaland for 10 minutes. And like, who knows where it takes you in the course of a year? Like, it's a lot of meetings, a lot of awesome stoke. Yeah, no, I'm fired up on that for you guys. That's super cool.
Which you could also capitalize on your Patreon, like those people are your in crowd already. And if they're the first people you go to for like Patreon, and you could say like, what do you guys want to see at Jammaland this year? And we try to get the word out through a lot of different things. Like we post in newspapers. We have some connections to like a local radio station here in Portland. So like one of us will go talk on the radio station about what we're going to feature at this year's event. And we try to leave some of it to surprise, we don't like tell everything, but we'll just say like, we have this headliner, like we have a senator coming to speak to you on this topic, like, what about your specific event could they get that they could not get anywhere else, So trying to think about that. And as far as the weekly meetings, like, yeah, it's just about to keep the little things going, because it is like a bunch of little steps that add up all year long, as opposed to like the mistake we make every year is like, oh, we're thinking about the spring thing. That's what our thing is called. And it's like around the same time every year, so people know when to expect it. But every year we start 6 months early and we're like, God, why did we like wait this long? Like we wish we'd been planning it for all year, because just thinking about every little detail, and we think about every piece of it and break it down, or like, okay, well, how is this going to benefit the people coming? What are they going to get from this? And just keeping those conversations going, I think is super important.
Hey, Lev and Ian, you guys, talking from your experience, are these bigger kind of like festivals per se something that's appealing, or is this something that like, oh, we get invited to 15 each year and like it's just kind of a bear? Like I don't know how that stuff works. Is that something that
we have not played any festivals. We applied to Tree Fort, which is a festival in Boise, Idaho. We did not get into that. The only technical festival that we will have played is I'm about to do a virtual festival that is it's the place keeper for what usually happens on University of Oregon campus at this time of year. It got canceled, the whole school shut down, but we haven't done any big time festivals like that. About the coolest thing that happens within sort of the realm of music in Eugene that I know of is it's just called Jam Fest, and it's a similar idea. It's got people camping, a bunch of music. It's not as like top level organizing, and this is a dream obviously, where you have everybody doing something vital, or at least presenting some kind of service. You mentioned the yoga teacher would lead something in the morning, another station of that. That's like a super inspiring thing, and this is kind of why I like your whole idea of only music so much, is that I think it's really easy to kind of forget as a musician that you are providing a service, and putting it in super, super tangible terms, as in literal sustenance. And this will be like, oh, you're based around music. Yeah, I believe that seems to be the underpinning of your guys' music altogether. But on specifically festivals, I don't have any experience with that kind of thing. Would be psyched to play Jammaland is definitely going on the books, or at least attendance when it becomes possible. And that is, I kind of just, in terms of COVID-19 future circumstances, I kind of think it's going to take a lot more organizing on people's part, the people actually doing the playing, doing the services and stuff, to know that the groundwork is there, and that I've just kind of been blind to it or not aware of it entirely. That's at least a good sign, knowing that there are a ton of competent people doing stuff that's not going to take up. You don't need the resource of venues or bars and stuff to the extent that they do all the promotion and are in control of providing service and electricity and stuff. But yeah, I can't necessarily say a ton about festivals, because they're kind of just like a mystical thing right now.
Have anything to add to that?
Yeah, not much to add. It sounds cool. Honestly, in I was gonna go to my second festival I've ever gone to in Bodega. And besides that, I've only been to one festival, which is Sasquatch, and it was like beyond overwhelming for me. Just like that amount of people and that amount of space was just like too much. But it was fun half the time, and some of it. So I don't know if festivals are really my thing. I'm kind of more prone to the idea of like intimate festivals, which I haven't really experienced. I was like about to go experience this one for the first time, and that's why Jammaland sounds appealing. Is although maybe the mass is what you need to make profit, if you could find a way to keep it to the maximum amount of people that is still intimate enough to feel like you have connection to the people you're around. And I think that's maybe the problem with this big festival was like there was just so many people around me all the time, and even like in those situations I don't really like enjoy, and then like put it on an extreme scale. So being able to actually have conversations and like sit around a campfire and not always be like trying to do stuff and go somewhere and be wondering what everyone else is doing, that sounds intriguing.
So Levin and I definitely share in that sentiment of just kind of like the massive festival ordeal. That was technically the first like real festival that I camped out. It was the same Sasquatch that Levy went to. And you do just kind of get lost in like chasing things around. Like it's just kind of an ongoing chase, not only because there's an overwhelming amount of artists, but there's an overwhelming amount of people. And I think sort of the coolest thing about things like Jammaland and this festival I was going to go to is that they can at least arrive to the place where the music and the whatever the artist doing the music, if it becomes regular and consistent enough, it doesn't necessarily matter that it's making all that much money. If you are able to come away from this journey into the woods where you literally just for a weekend play music, attend yoga, which would be like probably the only time I go all year, but that makes it all the better. That just in and of itself, if that thing is able to sustain itself and people are returning to that with any kind of consistency, that's really all that it matters. At least for what my aspirations are, it's that is the pinnacle. At least if it it's just fine tuning once you get there in terms of ramping it up for scale and just overall improving the experience. Now that would be something I'm curious to know of, like how many people it turned out the first couple of times you did it or first time you didn't, and how improvements on that were made on your part or what.
Yeah, I mean, it was like, 50 the first year, 75 the second year, 100 the next year. So we've got a great core of folks who love it. Maybe like last year, 150 different people came, but at different times during the weekend even. It's hard to say exactly. But what I think you guys have put the seed in for my head of is, let's, and maybe instead of trying to just keep getting it bigger and bigger and and respond, the biggest thing we've done really is get 2 porta potties instead of 1 or 3 instead of 2, because we do bring porta potties out there because there's no public restrooms. So the big idea that you guys have given me is, well, what if we kind of keep it intimate, try to keep it 100, maybe 150, 75, but then we charge people better, basically, because we've done a crap job at that, honestly. And we just try to make it more of a exclusive thing, basically, like you guys are saying these other successful festivals have done, where it's invite only, maybe. There is different tiers that you can get involved with and come out on, because that's been a big topic of discussion. And we I guess we want to be inclusive is a big thing that's a tripping point for us. Of like, if you're poor, like we still want you there. We don't want like just people who can afford a $50 or $100 ticket or whatever. So there's ways to work around that, obviously, but that's a big thing. And then also like being inclusive, like it doesn't, like we have all types of musicians there too, like people who just play for fun in their basement, are kind of starting the evening around 4 or 5 p.m. And then we have all the way, both nights usually we'll have our band closed from 9 to 10:30 or so. But we'll have other bands like Red Rock, a band that played at Red Rocks last year was playing there, big 7-piece brass bands and fun, awesome bands. And then from what's really cool is from 10:30 p.m. we turn off the plugged in stuff and the organized music, and we all go around the campfire and all the musicians who still got some energy, and everyone's just kicking it and like playing together and doing different jams and passing off guitars and working together and collaborating. So that stuff gets me really stoked about Jammaland, those experiences late at night, like when you're just hearing musicians sync.
Yeah, and I agree with Ian and Levy that, you know, the more intimate vibe is what I like. The big overwhelming festivals are a little bit much. And actually, when we started Jammaland, this is how like not how unprofit minded we were. We were like, let's do it somewhere that's really hard to get to, that like you got to really rough it. The first year we had no porta potties. Everyone was just pooping in the woods, digging holes. And we're like, those are the people we want to be there. You know, the people that are like working to get there and making it work and like finding it and all that. We're like, keep the softies, the fair weather, you know, people at home. But yeah, that's all really good stuff. I do like the tier system of charging people a lot. That I think, is it MJ?
Yeah.
That you mentioned. And I wanted to take a quick step back. Lana, you had mentioned grants. And I was curious if anyone here knows anything about grants, how hard it is to get them. I've thought about doing grants for our Only Music projects. Or I don't know, I mean, maybe Jammaland, I don't know. But the Only Music film projects, I've thought about looking into grants for, but I don't know anything about them or what it takes to make it happen.
I haven't specifically applied for a grant myself, but a lot of various things that I've done in my life, I've worked with a lot of people who do apply for grants and have been more or less like partially removed from the process. But as far as I know, and Lana, you can jump in, it's like specifically for your trips that you're doing. I feel like as far as the biggest thing is it's work. Like you have to be dedicated, you put in the work. But I think as far as that goes, like Lana had said, places when people have money, they're just looking for a cause to filter it into. So I think the hardest thing for you might just be the time commitment to like sit down and do it.
It with grants, is there a presumptive deliverable? Is that how that works? Like, is there we're going to give you this money if you provide this in return, or is it just like I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, it depends. I don't know like where you find them, honestly. I can ask the guy who's like been finding all these grants for us. But basically they're all different. They can be as involved or not involved as you can find it. So like some of them we have to say like, this is how we're going to spend this money. And then some of them it's just like we say we are providing education for our community and that's all they need to know. And this is how we're doing it. And we just have to write about that. And then they decide whether we're worthy or not. But I think, yeah, you're like, music only trips could be a great leverage point of like, we're providing education / not necessarily education, but access to music in locations that maybe people don't have it or like, and we're doing it for free technically, you know? So that might be a leverage point, but it is just sitting down and like trying to write about what you do in a good way based on like what they want to hear in the grant.
I think what you have going for you is like that's a very unique thing in a lot of grants that I guess I didn't apply for them, but I was searching for grants when I was doing a trauma-informed yoga internship in Denver. And yeah, they're pretty, like a lot of these companies or these organizations that have the money to give are looking for something pretty specific oftentimes, which is why you guys have that. So I think that's a benefit for you. It's just trying to find it. Like honestly, Google grants music and it'll be overwhelming how many things you come up with.
Yeah.
I bet. That's super helpful though. I appreciate you guys' input on that.
I'd say one thing
the only music, one of the things I was thinking of when you said like you want to maintain a certain level of like inclusivity with Jammaland is that like this might limit your traveling, which I'm not sure how you feel about that, but like that every year, like the week or 2 weeks or month or whatever it is for you before Jammaland, you guys do an only music that takes you to Jammaland. And that way it's like hey, we're starting in Maine, we're gonna end in Jammaland like we always do. Meet us along the route. Boom, there's like the map. We're gonna like we'll do our best to keep you updated with where we're at. And so that way, like people across the country can be part of Jammaland. Like, oh man, like they're starting down in Florida this year. Like, hell yeah, they're gonna be going through Alabama around this time. Like I've been tracking them. They'll be here tomorrow. And that way, like people are even more stoked to fuel your trip. And so you're traveling, you're still doing the only music. I think everybody here is saying like that is unique. It's inspirational. You can get your message out there. And then like when you arrive at Jammaland, and that just like creates this whole energy around it where it's like, the boys are here from Jammaland, hell yeah. And like that group is suddenly like the people that are almost like waiting for you to finish your marathon, that kind of vibe, right?
Yes, well, let's go. That is so good. A little only music trip. In the
I mean, you couldn't go, you couldn't necessarily go international, but yeah, it would just seem to me that like I mean, you could start in each a different state each year, right? Like 50 only musics are suddenly planned. Like we're gonna start in Alaska and make it to Jamland. We're gonna start in North Dakota, and like some of them are more intense than others, but like your pacing is different. And like going from Colorado to Jammaland, maybe you start in like Durango and you've got like 5 days, right? And so the whole like, I mean, that's just an idea for you to like kind of play with, but the only music, that's what like I keep hearing is people are like, dang, between Jammaland and only music, how can you merge those into like one beautiful entity? That was like my original thought, but I don't know.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And I didn't want to force the conversation that we're having tonight there towards only music because we've gotten on Jammaland, which I love Jammaland so much. But to me, it sort of feels like the Jammaland is awesome, and I want to keep pouring into that. But it's kind of taps the potential, at least from a business side, like profit-wise. Whereas only music, you know, they're not just a weekend; they're month-long trips that we're going on once a year. That we're filming and making into short films and documentaries that we're working to try to monetize basically in a way. And would love to, and you guys are talking about it now, and ways to kind of combine these two things we got going on with the Brothers Fountain, Jammaland, and Only Music. And I love that. But yeah, even some things that Ian has said, like, it's just amazing what, you know, the Only Music sort of concept, the way that has opened up doors for us to like be in, like to partner with sick brands like Giver, but also like you know, Osprey and some nonprofits, Playing for Change, Guitars for Glory. So like in South Africa, for example, we got to bring some instruments that were donated to us and play them along the whole way to make money and make our way. And then once we got to Cape Town, our departing city, we got to go to a school in a sort of like a ghetto township outside of Cape Town, where there was a music school and they didn't have very many instruments, and give all those instruments that we had been playing, a saxophone, a mini, you know, Taylor guitar, a ukulele, and a mandolin or something, and give them to the school. So
that's so cool.
Those type of things are like, that's what fires us up about, like, you know, these Only Music trips too, is like the collaborations and the partnerships, and we want to keep doing that. The problem is, like, you know, we're not getting paid on these during these trips, and it's a month away from like the paid gigs with the September productions, and you know, so how do we monetize this? How do we sell these films, distribute them, or create partnerships or collaborations where we can get financially reimbursed for it? Not just the month we are on the road pouring our heart into this thing, but the hundreds and hundreds of hours of editing Justin's doing, and you know, all the pre and post production stuff. So anyway, not to go down the rabbit hole, but
no, I mean, like the sponsor zone like I hadn't even thought of that. That's genius. Like that's so cool. That the idea of like every Only Music, you donate your instruments, and like you love nature. You guys are saying like, how can you get involved with like a trail cleanup along the way, or how can you work on some kind of outdoor like philanthropy, pretty much, so that like shit, Patagonia comes and sponsors you guys, and like they're doing the filming, right? Because they're like, hey, we'll send our crew down to do that for you, and like that you're creating this awesome kind of like reason for these sponsors to come on board. Which, yeah, I don't know a ton about sponsors. Like, do they do just a bare minimum amount of money to make it happen? And especially if it's like a 7-man band, again, you're running into a size challenge there. But like, if just the two of you did it every year, and like your buddies joined for a leg of the trip or something like that to make it a little bit more reasonable, those are all things that you can play through. But the sponsor concept, I mean, like that's got a ton of potential. That's really fascinating.
Yeah, we're always looking for, you know, more nonprofits to partner with and for-profit brands. If you guys have any connections to cool ones, I mean, we've worked with Osprey, and they've paid us. We have paid like, you know, $500, $1,000 to $2,000 paid sponsors on each of these, but we only have like 2 or 3 of those. So we're making, you know, $2,000-$3,000 per film now on that, which is awesome. Like, and so cool that they believe in us, and they have different deliverables. Each of them, maybe they want like some photos, or, you know, maybe they're just cool with being featured in the credits or whatever. But my thought kind of originally was, well, if I can get 10 or 20 of those, then finally we have a feasible business model here. But the problem now that I'm experiencing, I think, in a way is, well, first, that's really hard to get that many. Second, like, it kind of taints the rest of them trying to be in there a little bit. It's nicer to have just a few, maybe at a higher price point. But then, yeah, the next thing that I'm thinking about too is, do we try to get these films on Amazon Prime and like Netflix or Hulu or something like that, and get us distribute these short films? Because yeah, we'll come out with 15, 20, 25-minute films from these, and it's kind of a series, which is cool, I think, and marketable in a way, because we're going to keep making them. Anyway.
Have you thought of film festivals? Will and I go to like the Banff Film Festival here in town every year, and like they're not always, I mean, that's more so outdoor recreation, but it sounds like what you guys are doing and has a lot to do with that as well. But they've highlighted a lot of people's businesses. Like there was this woman duo that had a pizza shop. It might have actually been in Colorado. I can't remember. Was it?
Yeah, it was down, I forget the name of the town, but we're like the southeastern kind of like out there towns.
But anyway, it was like, it highlighted their business, and that was actually the majority of the film, but they were also really big bikers. They loved to cycle. So like trying to get into something like that, because Banff tours. So then you could start to like get the name of you guys out to a bunch of different people. So that takes care of the marketing for you as well, just by doing what you do.
Yeah, we do that, or I do. And we've gotten, into some film festivals. It's awesome when we do. We've gotten to attend 1 or 2, and even win some money, I think one time, or a gift card for some gear. And the problem is I enter into every free one I can find, but there's a lot, like Banff, it's like $100 to apply. Each one. So it's like, we don't have $1,000 to apply to 10, and we get back 0 out of 10, you know. That's like, so that's, I guess, the tripping point. But then maybe
budgeting for that.
Exactly.
Like,
maybe
this could be something that could really get us here. Let's say our budget for applying to these things this year is $200. You each throw in $100.
I do want to throw out one more business thought before I want to return to music in a second, because I know it's overwhelming when you have like 1,000 different business concepts thrown at you, and it's like, these could be so cool, but like, how do you have them land? So one last thought before we move on is Red Bull. They make a ton of incredible films, that kind of stuff. They make all their money on the drinks. And it is like the merchandise in the end is a tangible thing people can buy. And that, like, if you have some dope shirts or hats, whatever, like, it's your marketing, it's out there, people are proud to talk about it. There's their Jammaland hat, they're spreading the stoke. And like, it's hard. So hats and shirts are a little bit trickier because, I mean, Red Bull is like competing with a handful of other, like Monster and such, like Jolt, if that's even around still. And Levy was a big Jolt guy back in the day. But it's definitely one of those things to consider, because it's really easy to spread yourself thin and like, we'll do Jammaland, only music, sponsors, grants. Like, we've played through so many things, and like, to review those, think about how they actually kind of like settle with you guys, and like really like pinpoint what you want to dive in on if possible. Yeah, because I mean, like, all the ideas, I'm fired up. I'm like, how can I start investing in Jammaland? But yeah, it's just a lot to think through. But what I wanted to talk about music-wise is completely different tangent. How do you know when you have a hit? Like, one of my biggest things I always think about with music is like, Led Zeppelin is chilling in the studio. They're like playing Stairway to Heaven. Do they know in the moment that this is like one of the greatest rock songs of all time? But like, is that something that you can tell when you're in the moment? Or is that something that, like, looking back, or we had no idea it would get that big? You guys have thoughts on that?
Anybody?
I'd love to hear from Levy or Ian on that one.
I'll start, just because I have like a one-hit wonder, kind of, at least among our. Am I muted? Can you hear me? Okay. I had one song that I wrote that a bunch of friends love, and it's like, it has like 80,000 views or 75,000 views on Spotify, and most people who like listen to the album will text me like, "Oh, I love that one song." And for me, it was like 2 a.m. in a dorm room, and this girl that I really liked had like kind of broken things off, more or less. Or no, it wasn't a dorm room. It was in my house, and it was late at night or whatever. And when I was playing, it just felt like I played it, and then I wanted to play it again, and then I wanted to play it again. And then when I was going to bed, I was singing it to myself. And then I woke up in the shower, and I was singing it to myself. And then I went and I played it for Ian. And then I remember me and Ian were going somewhere after I played it to him, and Ian started humming it in like a restaurant. And then like he played it to his girlfriend Layla, and Layla started singing it when we were like walking about, like unprompted. And I was like, "Oh shit!" Like, that's cool. That's cool. That's how it kind of. You're listening to other people. Playing it. Which was really, really cool for me to experience. And I think part of the main thing is that song, compared to other songs that I wrote, just felt so like pure and good when I was playing it. Where like the words kind of just fell out, and then as they were falling out, I just like couldn't stop smiling, because like, oh, this is like, I'm not forcing myself to like scribble as hard as I can and like think really hard for words to find. It's just like, oh, this is just falling out of me right now, and it feels so good that I want to keep going. And then along with people singing it and humming it in their spare time unprompted, that's where like, oh, it's going to go somewhere, hopefully.
That's a really cool story. Wow.
I think Ian can also testify. He has a kind of a hit song too, so maybe he wants to share.
I think in terms of like knowing when you've written a song that's gonna stick, it is kind of spontaneous in a sense, because I just I've trying to make use of this quarantine, but I went a long time sort of where I was mostly promoting an album and less writing just in the last year or so, weeks, or at least when I was in it's mostly a matter of like feeling like a song has.
I think Ian has this song called Hot Water for a Frozen Heart. And if you haven't heard it more than others, it was like Ian, like if you can picture this scene of Eclectic Ian, he's like sitting in a bathrobe drinking like a half drinking smoothie, which is his technique of having a smoothie with that's been made, and then you drink it, and then you fill it up with water, so you get 2 smoothies, which he's super big on. And he's just made like spinach waffles. Like, he's kind of got all this stuff going on. You walk in, he sits down at the piano, and he plays Hot Water for a Frozen Heart, and you just kind of like, holy shit, what did I just listen to? And it's relatable in the sense that you like can place yourself in his shoes and all that kind of stuff. But in my perspective, it really just makes you feel like something beyond, like some kind of connection beyond that you can kind of put to words, and that was like really moving at the time. And I think Ian's, like, what he was trying to say is he spent a lot of time trying to promote the album, recording the album. And Ian is the kind of person who's like sitting in the bathroom for like an hour, and he's adding harmonies to each of his songs, and he's just sitting there like singing harmonies to all his parts. And I think he can get really deep into like making songs better and stuff like that. And I think that now he's trying to capitalize on quarantine songwriting process to make songs that feel good. And I'm sure if he's in the middle of Idaho, he had something more meaningful to add. And maybe he can chime in a little later, but yeah.
We'll have closing remarks from Ian at the end. Fountain Brothers, how about yourselves? Like the Take Me Closer, for example, that's like, I mean, I have that on my playlist of like all my favorite songs. And it's an awesome jam. That like when you were writing that one, is that something you were like, oh yeah, nailed it, got this?
Yeah, not really. I never really think any of mine are gonna be like hits. I'm not really going for the hit. I'm going for like just whatever the song comes out, you know, is what it is. And then I think that's for a lot of musicians. And then it just, if it's a hit, it happens to be a hit. I have no idea if Led Zeppelin thought that Stairway to Heaven was going to be amazing and like world renowned. I would guess that they didn't. I would guess that when they wrote it, they was like, great song. Like, we'll just put it out there and see what happens. I don't know though, but I definitely identify with Levy's story a little bit with Take Me Closer, where it just has that like ring, you know, and like, you know. And so when I played it, I wanted to play it again, and then I wanted to keep on going back to it. And then when I would play it for people, they'd later on kind of be humming it or singing it. So that one maybe had some of those cues and clues of becoming more of a sought after song of ours.
Nice. Oh yeah. I do try to cap these around 2 hours. People have got lives. You gotta get back to, you're fixing your RV, JJ, and Ian's somewhere out there in the world. We're all a little worried about him. One thing I was thinking of to wrap things up, with the COVID realities, it would seem that if you can, Jammaland planning, that seems to me like people are yearning to be together right now, right? Like, gosh, I can't wait to hang out with my homies and go on a road trip and that kind of stuff. That like, if you can get ahead of things and say, Jammaland is going to be 2021, October, like it could be pretty far out there, but that at least would give people something to look forward to. I know that's something that like I've heard in a kind of like a variety of industries recently, is like, how can we capitalize on the realities of this crazy time and give people like what they want? So like Jammaland in 2021, like, hell yeah, I'm there. Like, it sounds sweet. I can't wait to go, because I just want to be with people in general, you know? So Fountain Brothers, you guys are awesome. Keep on crushing it. We're all pumped on your music and what you're doing. Levy and Ian, you guys as well. Super good having you on. Lana and Buster, Sharon throwing ideas in. This awesome group to talk to, and like we'll continue the conversation moving forwards. Like, this is just the beginning for sure. So thank you very much. I'm stoked for you guys.
Hey, thank you all so much for your input. Love y'all. Y'all are awesome. Appreciate it.
Wait. How do we get in touch with you guys?
With us?
Yeah, with all of them. Except for one MJ.
You should hit us up on our Instagram or like an email type thing. Hey, thanks so much for doing this. Sorry I was a huge pain in the ass.
Not at all. Not at all. All right. Bye, everybody. Have a good night.